Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod. It's the economy, stupid, where the data tells us our money is and what that means for policy.
People assume we're in a tailwind environment right now, not in a headwind, and that makes you nervous.
Always.
Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, on the Democrats' response to the quickly moving Trump agenda that is remaking America.
You pass one big, ugly bill that's now law on a partisan basis that represents the largest attack on health care in American history. People all across the country are going to experience increased premiums, co-pays, and prescription drug prices. That's a problem.
On this 90th anniversary of Social Security, Mehmet Oz joins us. He's gone from TV doctor to running the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid.
It's reprehensible to criticize the president on this, I think, very earnest effort to save Medicaid, to allow it to provide care to our most vulnerable.
Plus, The Apprentice, Federal Reserve Edition, and it's good to learn new things.
You know, I lived in a period where there were no pagers even. There were no phones. There weren't even flip phones.
I know.
It's Thursday, August 14th, 2025. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Andrew by in 3, 2, 1. Cue Andrew.
Good morning and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We are live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Andrew Sorkin along with Joe Kernen. Becky is off. Take a look at the small cap Russell 2000. It's coming off a 2% gain yesterday. That's on pace now for its best week since last November and only about 5.5% now off of its record high. The VIX, on the other hand, falling to its lowest level since late last year. People seem to be very chill. That's like the chillometer right there.
Is it a chillometer or a chilometer? I like
chilometer.
Chilometer.
Chilometer, but it's really chillometer.
You don't call it a speedometer.
It's chilometer.
Chilometer, yeah.
Chillometer. Anyway, take a look at crypto. We'll see whether people are chilling on that or not. Bitcoin, 121,684. Ether, still sitting, $4,760. They're not chilling there.
You could say for Bitcoin, either it's because it's risk on, or you could say it's risk on because of a rate cut, and rate cuts also are what debase theoretically easing, and it makes the dollar weaker and makes Bitcoin more attractive long term.
All the things.
All those things. President Trump says he's going to name the next Fed chair a little bit early. Says he's considering, in his words, 3 or 4 people for the central bank's top job. The president's making those comments to journalists at the Kennedy Center. God, I love the people he picked. I know we don't need to talk about it, but fine. The way it used to be when I'd see who was there, it's like, ugh. Because if it's like an Academy Award speech. The people that you see, he picked John Voight,
I saw
Sylvester Stallone, Kiss, George Strait, one of the greats. I just like this world a little better, but that's just me. I don't expect you to agree necessarily. However, we've heard the president will consider as many as 11 candidates to lead the Fed. President Trump also, again, criticizing current chair Jay Powell. Literally, no. Seriously, yes. He says that rates should be 3 or 4 percentage points lower than they are.
Now, I believe we should be 3 or 4 points lower. So that's over $1 trillion we pay every year in interest. And it's really just a paper calculation. You sign a document and you save almost $1 trillion because that number equates very much to the bonds that we have to buy.
I think he means on the long end. I think that's what he's talking about, obviously, because if it's from where the Fed is,
right,
we'd be
that's
at
a
zero.
Hard to control.
It's hard to control, but if he meant where the Fed is in terms of rate cuts,
well, then it would make sense.
Then we'd be negative, though, or getting close. Speaking of which, I would like. Wouldn't you like someone to pay you to keep your mortgage? That makes sense to me. I think that seems like might not be great for cooling off an economy necessarily, but we've done it before with negative interest rates and negative oil prices and things like that. Those were the golden days, the good old days. Speaking of interest rates, Chicago President, and then we're going to talk about this, Fed President Austin Goolsbee says he wants to see more data, including today's PPI number, before deciding if a rate cut is warranted. And Atlanta's Raphael Bostic says the healthy state of the U.S. job market, it puts the Fed in a good place. It allows the Fed the luxury of not having to rush to adjust monetary policy. And here's what I already checked, Andrew, because, okay, today is it the 13th or 14th? It's the 14th.
14th
so we get
of
CPI and PPI about this time. So for me, the tailwinds right now for the Fed cutting, we had that labor report, which was a little bit weak.
A little weaker.
So now we've gotten some data on CPI, 2.7 or 3.1. So my question was, if the PPI comes in similar to the CPI, then we have a jobs report on the first Friday of September, and then we will have 2 inflation reports before the Fed meeting next month. It's the 16th, I think. It's the 16th.
Yeah, but you're assuming that you can change mortgage or long-term.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm
not sure that these guys have the
maybe they don't. I'm saying
the influence anymore.
I'm saying whether they're in cutting mode now.
Right.
The next thing that comes we'll get 2 more. I was wondering, do we get 2 more inflation readings? Yeah, we do. We get before the next Fed meeting.
Right.
But in September, you would think they're doing 25. I don't know. Well, they're probably doing 25. That's 70%, isn't it? 50's not, but they're probably doing 25. Unless what could come in the way of that? The inflation number or a really strong jobs report, which is the first Friday of September, which was coming. But it is coming, and as we talked yesterday, there's a lot of people assume we're in a tailwind environment right now, not in a headwind, and that makes you nervous.
Always. I'm nervous either way. Chinese AI startup DeepSeek reportedly delaying its next generation R2 model after having trouble training it using chips from Chinese tech giant Huawei. This is a pretty interesting story because the Financial Times reporting that DeepSeek ran into problems as it worked to train the R2 model with Huawei's Ascend chips, which had been pushed by the Chinese government, Joe. The article says that led DeepSeek to fall back on NVIDIA chips for training while using Huawei's chips for inference. That refers to an AI model making its own predictions after it learns from a large amount of data. So this goes back to 2 issues. One is that basically the first version of DeepSeek probably was built on the back of NVIDIA chips the whole time.
Really?
That's the lesson of this whole situation. And if you remember, we had Alex Wong on our broadcast.
I defer to you on this. This you were right on. You thought you talking about? Not good. The GPT-5 rollout
not as good as I want it to be.
Shows strain, and it's slower, and it says something weird here. It's like a colder tone. Criticize the colder. What does that mean? It's not as friendly. Does it not say "I like you, Andrew" or something? Or
the voice is as friendly as ever. I think she's too friendly. I don't like that voice.
How is that possible? I love it when people.
The woman who talks to me.
Oh, I'd love some.
Oh my God! I'm always telling her to stop it. It's crazy.
Really?
Oh, it's so bubbly and over the top. It's outrageous.
You're not used to it. It's the next generation R2 chip, the R2D2.
It's not an R2 chip. It's an R2 model.
Model is the next generation model, the R2D2.
It is not.
How do you know? Wouldn't you do that?
You would, except that it's not ready yet. It's not good enough. And you're going to need an NVIDIA chip to make it work.
Oh, okay.
Think about an R2D2 with an NVIDIA chip in it.
Think about that. It probably had one. We just didn't know because they were so ahead of their time. So you, at this point, the poly market, and they were right to put that. It's not in the lead. This
Which one?
GPT-5.
It may not be in the lead. And the craziest part about this, which is the thing I've been thinking a lot about and talking to a lot of people about in the past couple of days who are living in this AI world, is, you basically train these models. It's almost like baking something in an oven. And then you open the oven and wait to look and see how your pie looks. It's a very strange phenomenon. Like, you don't really know what's going on inside the oven. And then you open the oven and you see the thing you've made.
Even the people that are doing the designing aren't sure what they're going to get?
Not exactly. They don't know exactly how it's going to turn out.
That's pretty fascinating. You got to.
And then they open the oven, they look at the pie, and then it's not always clear that just because you think you knew all the new cool ingredients to put into the pie, that the pie is therefore better.
Do you have any idea how to fix the things that aren't?
That I don't know. I mean, clearly they're trying to work on that.
Because You have no idea how to do my app, obviously. So
Yeah. Well, the funny part about that is...
You should blame GTP5 on that.
Well, I should blame GPT-5, and I should move to Claude. That's what everybody has told me.
That's up to you. I can't help you.
For this purpose.
I can't help you there.
Okay.
You make that. I have no idea what you're... Claude seems fine. I don't know.
Claude's Anthropic.
How's the Llama? 12 cent of the Llama. Big hitter, that Llama.
I'm told Llama's not as good for this.
No?
No.
He's not... He's tight, too.
But I'll tell you
not a big tipper, that
I'll tell you
Llama.
what is pretty great. Grok. Grok is pretty great.
I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing
Grok
I'm seeing a lot of bragging from Elon and everything else.
Grok is pretty great, but unfortunately, not a lot of people using Grok, and I think that's one of the things that's frustrating Elon, and that's one of the reasons that he's lashing out at Apple and others, because I do think it's a pretty good model.
Well, this is a
and by the way, not just like because it gets
this is
good data
problem.
from
This is a good problem
Twitter.
to have. This is a good problem to have, I think, right? I mean, they're really competing to make it.
Yes, except all of these require so much capital. It's like everybody's just like burning money into a furnace.
Which is also good. If you, I don't know, the velocity of money. I mean, we are in we'll have Hakeem Jeffries on a little bit later. I'm going to have to ask him a question. I want him to point to like the worst thing happening right now.
You're referring to?
I don't know. I'm 2.7% inflation, 3% unemployment, new highs across the board in the markets. The borders closed. Iran's. I mean, I'm telling you my question, but give me the calamity.
Is that a question or a statement?
Where is the calamity right now? The only calamity that you have is the end of democracy. And the answer is socialism. The answer is socialism, and just keep harping on orange man bad, he's Hitler, and it's the end of democracy. That's all you got. I think
you and I both agree that I think there's a lot of good things going on.
Well, but
there's also a sort of Marxist sense about how it's all being done.
I think that's absurd.
You think that's absurd?
Totally, ridiculously absurd. Just sit back and just chill, like you said, chill, relax. New highs. Interest rates are probably going to get cut. Iran has been set back probably years.
I am not going to sit here and tell you that things are terrible. I'm just going to tell you
how about the trade deals? The UK, the EU, the Japan. We're talking to China. We're going to Alaska.
Our standing in the world. How about that?
It's phenomenal.
You think it's higher?
Yeah. Why do you think trillions of dollars are coming here or earmarked to come here right now? You can't come up with a bad thing.
Because there's been a shakedown, my friend. There was a shakedown.
Whatever you want to call it. It's all about them. Did you listen to Charlie Kirk at all yesterday? These are all.
Yes, you got your talking points this morning from Charlie Kirk.
You got nothing. I was going to say, you have nothing except the nebulous end of democracy BS. And you came up with what he came up with.
As I said to you, there are certain policies I like. There are certain policies I like.
You mean the industrial policy?
The industrial policy.
Why didn't you say something during the CHIPS Act?
It's a version of socialism.
Why didn't you say something during the CHIPS Act?
Well, because we had a whole conversation post-COVID and post-pandemic about how we needed to have a more resilient supply chain. That was the argument being made then. This is very different.
Okay. All right. He might not come on now because it's going to be like checkmate. But coming up, we're going to talk.
Who's that?
Hakeem.
Oh.
The leader, Jeffries.
I'm going to tell everybody about this news story, and then we're going to talk about the thing. And we're just going to talk.
I'm going to plead ignorance, but pretend I'm not.
It's okay. The first thing.
You sure? So I'm not that. Okay.
Totally. This is not that. What we're about to talk about. This is just a news headline, and it's pretty interesting. Veteran investor Mario Gabelli, obviously somebody who's been on this show so many times, filing a lawsuit, and he sort of teased that he was going to do this for years, over Paramount Global's merger with Skydance Media, Gabelli's firm, seeking class action status on behalf of shareholders in one of his funds and other clients who held Class A shares of Paramount prior to the merger with Skydance closing last week. Now, that lawsuit's targeting former Paramount controlling shareholder National Amusements and that company's head, Shari Redstone. Gabelli has complained that Redstone walked away from the Paramount-Skydance merger with billions of dollars, while other investors weren't compensated appropriately. And basically, he's making an argument about the two tiers of shares and how that deal was done. Okay.
Okay.
Now we're going to go to a different issue.
I'll start with what my question was to you. So I don't really use just Google when I have questions
Right.
anymore, because it's just easier to go on. Perplexity's on the front. I don't
Yes.
even know. I barely know how to move those things.
I hear you.
Those icons. So I go use that. So my question is, why would they even want this browser when I basically use them for everything? And you started telling me they don't own anything. Perplexity.
So the reason why Perplexity would want to own
the browser,
if possible. First of all, the browser is valuable mostly because once you have the browser, you then control. Everybody goes in the bar there and puts in their search term.
Right, and that's
so
how
all
you
of a
make
sudden,
money. And
people would use their browser,
okay,
or rather would use their service, right? And that would create some kind of bigger moat around their business.
Perplexity.
The question mark around Perplexity has always been what the moat is around their business, because underneath their service is not, for the most part, their own models.
They haven't built any of those out.
They're using Claude, they're using OpenAI, they're using all of the different models. In fact, what the best thing they're doing is they've sort of built a custom service so that they can actually effectively ping different models to try to get the best answer in any given moment. Now, they've customized on top of it.
But they're not using the top-level AI
But it's not
stuff
always their
because
model.
they're using free stuff. They're not
They use
using
a lot of the free stuff. Some of the paid, if you are a paying user of Perplexity, they will route your question to sometimes other paying versions of other models. But they don't control the model. And one day, it's possible, OpenAI or Claude could cut them off.
Right.
That's also a possibility.
Right.
And so if you're trying to create, now the argument is if Perplexity can become such a big driver of business to all these other places that they would never want to cut them off.
Okay.
If you had the Chrome browser and you became such a big sort of player in the space, by the way, nobody could ever cut you off, and therefore you'd have a real defensive moat around your business.
Okay.
That's the argument.
Well, the thing that I didn't realize was that they haven't written all.
Well, no, they've written code. I don't want to say they've written no code, because the other thing they've done.
But it routes it to the other.
But a lot of what they're doing is routing the questions to different places that are not their own models. Now, they have some of their own sort of mini models, if you will, and there's lots of sort of wrappers that they've put on top of the stuff. By the way, some of the best things that Perplexity has done revolve around financial information. So if you actually are searching for financial information, they have really tried to make a go at almost being like a Bloomberg. And they are routing information, but they're also then sort of wrapping it in a way that the other models don't do themselves. So there is, I don't want to say this is like they're just routing questions to other people and they got nothing going on.
Right.
But it's just a different kind of thing.
Trying to, they want to be valued at $20 billion, and they're talking about spending twice as much on something just to get it, as you said, to be a real company, to be a real boy.
Well, I think it also puts them into
Pinocchio.
By the way, it also puts them into the story. I mean, some people have argued that they're never really going to buy TikTok, they're never really going to buy Chrome, but we're now talking about Perplexity in the same breath as we are Claude or ChatGPT or whatever.
Right. Because I lived in a period where there were no pagers even. There were no phones. There weren't even flip phones.
I know.
There were just big Gordon Gecko, and those were new. And
I know.
People thought those were great. And when I got one in my car, I was like, women became interested in me finally when
you had one of those phones in your car.
Exactly.
Wow.
It was a Porsche.
It was a Porsche.
Yeah. It was
Hey,
like
now.
a whole.
Tease will be next.
Coming up on Squawk Pod, leader of House Democrats, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, with his take on the president's dealmaker-in-chief agenda.
I think it's a disgrace. The Trump administration has attacked the free enterprise system here in the United States of America.
And the impact he sees on institutions, from law firms and universities to government workers.
The Trump administration has unleashed the largest pay-to-play scheme in modern American history, and everybody in corporate America knows it. Everyone in Washington, D.C. knows it.
This is Squawk Pod from CNBC. Today with Joe Kernen and Andrew Ross Sorkin.
Up and Andrew, Q.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Join us right now, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. There is so much to talk to you about this morning, about everything that's going on in Washington, about the BLS, the Fed. We could talk about NVIDIA, Democratic Party, but I want to start with this. And by the way, mea culpa on me too, but I'm curious where you land. For the last several months, the Democratic Party, for the most part, has been publicly suggesting that because of these tariffs, that the economy was going to falter, that there was going to be a massive recession. And for whatever reason, that has not happened. And I'm curious why you think that hasn't happened and whether you think it was a mistake to be as critical as you have been.
Well, good morning. Great to be with you. Donald Trump promised on day one that costs were going to go down. Costs haven't gone down. They've gone up. What we have seen, in fact, is job creation go down almost to record low levels. And so there is reason to believe that the economy is not moving in the right direction. The erratic tariff policies have created a great deal of uncertainty in the business environment. And uncertainty, of course, doesn't allow for the type of explosive economic growth that we will all like to see here in the United States of America. I think there's no real basis to conclude that Donald Trump has been successful, particularly as it relates to the core issue of driving down the high cost of living in the United States of America, which is too high, which was his fundamental promise to the American people. Costs aren't going down, they're going up.
But are you surprised? I'm just asking, just as a person, are you surprised that the tariffs haven't had a bigger impact on prices, for example?
I think it remains to be seen where this is headed. I'm deeply concerned that the tariffs are going to exacerbate the inflationary challenges that we already have in the United States of America, the affordability issues that we have in the United States of America, particularly as it relates to consumer goods and consumer goods that are going to be important to the American people as folks prepare to send their children back to school.
I guess, Mr. Speaker, I don't know about deflation and costs coming down. All I can tell you is that the inflation rate itself was 2.7% in the most recent read year over year versus it got to a high of 9% under Biden. Stocks are at record highs. Unemployment is 4.2%. That's full employment. The GDP was 3%. The border is actually secure. We've got trade deals with EU, Japan, many more in the works, and trillions of dollars of foreign investment coming here. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back indefinitely. And I just wrote down a few things. So I just have to ask you, where is the calamity that you're talking about? And it almost seems like for Democrats, socialism is the answer to these problems. Or, I don't know, an end of democracy or something? We just don't get it.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what we stand for, Joe. It's pretty clear. As Democrats, we believe in a strong floor and no ceiling. In America, you work hard, you play by the rules, you should be able to live the good life. And there should be no ceiling on your success, on your capacity to do anything in the United States of America. That's the great promise of this country. At the same period of time, there should be a strong floor. Today is the 90th anniversary of Social Security. It was born 90 years ago today. What we've seen from this administration is an attack on Social Security, an attack on Medicare, an attack on the Affordable Care Act, ripping Medicaid away from millions of Americans. That actually is the type of strong floor that we should also have in this country. You pass one big, ugly bill that's now law on a partisan basis that represents the largest attack on health care in American history. Hospitals will close, nursing homes will shut down, community-based health clinics will be unable to operate. People all across the country are going to experience increased premiums, co-pays, and prescription drug prices. That's a problem for everyday Americans. I'm not talking about people who are already wealthy and well-off and well-connected. I'm talking about the everyday Americans that I represent in Brooklyn and that we're fighting hard for. In fact, those same Americans, food is being ripped out of the mouths of hungry children, veterans, and seniors with the largest attack on nutritional assistance in American history. I find that problematic in the United States of America, and millions of people do so as well.
Leader, where do you land on this mayoral race in New York, and in particular on Mamdani, who is clearly now the front runner in this situation, won the primary? You have not publicly come out endorsed him yet. And I'm curious what you're thinking.
Well, he ran a strong race in the primary, obviously, relentlessly focused on affordability, which is a big problem, of course, here in New York City, along with every other part of the United States of America. And he outworked the opposition, he outmessaged the opposition, and outorganized the opposition. But now during the general election, of course, he's going to have to demonstrate to a broader electorate, including in many of the neighborhoods that I represent in Brooklyn, that his ideas can actually be put into reality. And that's, the conversation that he's having with me and having with people who are community leaders and residents in the 8th Congressional District I serve.
And that sounds like you're not convinced then yet.
No, well, we had one initial conversation. It was a constructive and candid conversation. It was centered around the community. And in that conversation, he indicated he'd like my help in putting together additional meetings with members of the congressional delegation, as well as leaders in many of the communities that I represent in neighborhoods like East New York and Brownsville, Canarsie, some of the more lower income working class neighborhoods that I may serve. I agreed to do that. That meeting is being put into motion right now.
How do you think about him relative to Cuomo? And how do you think about the message of socialism or being a socialist and what that may portend for the Democratic Party?
Well, I think, as I indicated, listen, my view about what we as Democrats stand for, what we're fighting for, we need to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. We need to fix our broken healthcare system. And we need to clean up corruption in Washington, D.C., so we actually have a government that works for the American people, for everyday Americans, for hardworking American taxpayers, as opposed to working for the privileged few. That's what that one big ugly bill was about. Cut health care, devastate nutritional assistance, reward Republican billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. That's not us as Democrats. Here in this country, work hard, play by the rules. You should be able to afford to live the good life. Good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children,
right,
and a good retirement, which, by the way, means protect Social Security and Medicare because they are earned benefits, not entitlement programs. Don't try to devastate
I understand
them,
that.
which is what the Republican plan is right now.
I'm curious where you land on things like, freezing rent, free buses, giving away, free food at supermarkets and the like, and what you just think of that idea and what it represents.
Listen, Zohran is going to have to make the case to the people of New York City, including in the neighborhoods that I represent, that these ideas, which are designed to address affordability in New York City, and that as a top-line effort is important. The cost of living is the number one issue here in the city, number one issue across the country. It's why Donald Trump's poll numbers are in the basement right now.
But do you agree with those approaches as a solution? Look, you and I agree. Affordability is this number one issue in New York. It's the number one issue in the country. And so he has done a great job of identifying that issue and articulating that issue. The question is how you attack that issue. And what I'm asking you is whether you agree with the solutions that he's offering.
Here's what my solution would be. And I've said this directly to him and will continue to say it to policymakers across the city, the state, and the country. We have a situation in New York City and across America where the demand for housing that is affordable greatly exceeds the supply. That's a problem. That imbalance is jamming people up, working class residents, moderate income residents, middle class residents. In New York City, if you're a police officer married to a nurse, you can't even afford to purchase a home in this city. That's problematic. So we have to build our way out of this problem. That's all hands on deck. That's city, that's state, that's federal. That also means a meaningful partnership with the private sector. That has always been my position. That will continue to be my position because it's the right position for the people that I serve.
Andrew Cuomo has made the point that Zohran Mamdani lives in a rent-controlled apartment, even though he is not considered, quote unquote, poor, and that Andrew Cuomo would actually try to create a law in the state that would prevent people like Mamdani from living in a rent-controlled apartment. Do you think that he should live in a rent-controlled apartment?
Well, listen, that's an issue for the state legislators and the state government to work out.
Well, no, but it's a fascinating issue about affordability in this city, and whether there are folks who are living in rent-controlled apartments all across this city that effectively should be going towards poor people who need that affordability.
It's a legitimate issue that has been raised, and the Mamdani campaign is going to have to address it.
Talking about issues that folks are going to have to address, what do you think of the president's decision to replace the BLS director in terms of this new person who's just been put into this role?
I think it's a disgrace, but it's part of a consistent pattern that the Trump administration has attacked the free enterprise system here in the United States of America. The Trump administration has unleashed the largest pay-to-play scheme in modern American history, and everybody in corporate America knows it. Everyone in Washington, D.C. knows it. Is that not an attack on a free market-based economy here in the United States of America? Seems to me that it actually is. That's problematic.
Right, but here's the thing. You're talking about free market.
Problematic.
This is why I wanted to go there, because there's you're talking about a free market on one side and being an advocate for a free market on one side, but at the same time, we just had a whole conversation about an individual who is running for mayor in New York City who is genuinely titling themselves a socialist. And you're saying that you might ultimately support them. And so I'm trying to understand the distinction here.
No. I'm trying to understand why you would spend a significant amount of time asking me about the Democratic nominee who's not even the mayor, and it's not a legitimate point to raise about a president who is regularly attacking the free market economy, bullying corporations, bullying universities, bullying law firms. He just recently called upon the CEO of Goldman Sachs to fire their chief economist. That's not problematic. He's the leader of the free world, the president of the United States of America. He's in office right now, and he's attacking the market-based economy. Now, I said that I support.
I don't disagree with you at all. And I don't love those attacks, but I will say, just in fairness, and I wonder whether you think that they're the same or they're not the same. There have been people that have criticized Elizabeth Warren for years for individually attacking and going after and naming specific CEOs in America, specific companies in America, over again and over again. President Biden famously didn't invite Elon Musk to the White House, probably caused him to actually support this president originally. And so the question is whether those are the same or they're different.
It's interesting that we're talking about Joe Biden, no longer the president, Elizabeth Warren, who's a senator, as opposed to Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, his administration, as well as complete control of government in Washington, D.C., the House and the Senate. That's the problem that we are confronting right now. And our challenge is to actually make sure that we are addressing the issues of significance to the American people. And the number one issue is the high cost of living that they failed to address.
Final question. I think there are a lot of Republicans who actually agree that there are certain things this president does that they don't like, but they're unwilling to stand up and raise their hand and say something about it. Why do you think that is?
I mean, we're dealing with a cult-like situation, unfortunately, in Washington, D.C., and we as Democrats will repeatedly make the point, look, we are a separate and co-equal branch of government. We don't work for Donald Trump. We don't work for Elon Musk. We don't work for J.D. Vance. We work for the American people. And unfortunately, far too many of my Republican colleagues have not taken that approach. They are actively doing damage to the people they represent, including the largest attack on Medicaid in American history. And they're going to pay a price for that at the polls in November of next year.
Leader, I want to thank you for joining us. Always great to talk to you. We love hearing your perspective, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next on Squawk Pod, 2025's changes to American healthcare. A lot of provisions were included in the One Big Beautiful Law. Dr. Mehmet Oz, CMS Administrator.
50% increased spending in rural health care, and they've created a rural health transformation fund that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is going to administer. The money is going to be given with grants, which are being requested within the next month.
We'll be right back. And we're back.
Stand by, Joe. His mic, cue.
You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC. I'm Joe Kernen, along with Andrew Ross Sorkin. And
big hour.
It is a big hour. Joining us now, Dr. Mehmet Oz, the administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Doctor, it is good to see you, and welcome. It's so tough to try to navigate through these challenges, and I don't envy the job you're trying to do. So, by definition, we think that some government programs are wasteful. There's no doubt about it. At the same time, nobody likes to hear that something's not going to be covered or that authorizations are going to be tightened up. How do you walk the fine line? And you're trying to do it right now with Medicare. We've all heard AI is going to help us do all these different things, but when you try to use AI to maybe get rid of some unnecessary procedures, you're immediately going to hear people crying that it's unfair and we don't need this. And that's what you're going through right now.
Joe, the challenge is worth it. Think about prior authorization, which is the large category you're speaking about, as a tool. When done correctly, it's incredibly helpful. You have a hammer, which is a tool, you can build a house with it, but you can do damage with it as well. And when prior authorization first started being used within Medicare and Medicaid, that was 60 years ago. By the way, the program is 60 years old this month. So, it's got a long and wonderful history of helping Americans achieve their best health. And that's really the goal here. It's not just an insurance card, but to allow you to flourish, to thrive with the best health possible. You can't be a wealthy nation without being a healthy nation. But we need to make sure that the money is spent in the right places. So when you go to a checkout counter, you put your debit card in, you immediately are told whether you have money in the bank so that the vendor knows that they're getting paid and that you can actually pay for it. We need something equivalent to that with prior authorization. That's not what's happening now. For private insurance companies and for Medicare Advantage, oftentimes these programs are used as weapons to deprive care. It's done for a variety of reasons, but if we could make it work the way it's supposed to work, to allow us to adjudicate for sure that you're getting the right care in the right place, you're not having some unscrupulous individual doing an unnecessary procedure or giving you an unneeded medication, that's a helpful thing for the system. We think it could actually be about $100 billion of benefit to the American people, to the taxpayer, if we can use these services appropriately. So the president used the power to convene, as he often does. He realizes you can be nimble if you can get industry to start doing the right thing. So he asked us to pull together the insurance companies in America. We've got about roughly 80% of the people in America's insurance companies now pledging to do something with prior authorization. They announced it at the HHS headquarters with Secretary Kennedy and myself. We had members of Congress there, and they have vowed, by the end of this calendar year, they will reduce the number of procedures for which prior authorization is required, only the ones that are most important. They're going to be very clear on what the criteria are for getting these procedures or these medications. And by next year, they'll do it digitally. So just like that debit card goes in and tells you immediately, not in 2 weeks, right that moment, whether you have money to buy that cappuccino, we'll be able to do the same thing for the American people.
Well, it's going to be demagogued. It already is. I'm reading it already. We don't need a duplicative process. It's just going to result in less care being given to people that need it, and which brings us to Medicaid. We just had Leader Jeffries on. I mean, the way Democrats talk about what was in that bill and the way Republicans talk about it, it almost seems like you're in a parallel or a different universe. They think Medicaid is being absolutely gutted. I mean, how do you respond to that? You need work requirements. Is the spending still going up over the next 10 years? Is it not? By trillions of dollars?
Joe, we're going to spend $200 billion more on Medicaid.
$200 billion, okay.
$200 billion more on Medicaid. And we have a program that had grown the Medicaid program 50% in its size in the last 5 years. So it's reprehensible to criticize the president on this, I think, very earnest effort to save Medicaid, to allow it to provide care to our most vulnerable. But you cannot use it in ways it was not designed. 60 years ago, when Medicaid was created, it was very clear it was supposed to be used for those at the dawn of their life, as Hubert Humphrey said, the children, those at the twilight of their life, the elderly, and those who were living in the shadows, the disabled. Those are the folks it was designed for. So every Democratic president and every Republican president has said that the backbone of a social support fabric has to be work. You want people to actually get out of their homes and go do things. An able-bodied person on Medicaid today watches about 6.1 hours of television or just hangs out leisure time. This is data that is well replicated. That's a lot of time. No one's going to be happy sitting at home 6.1 hours a day doing nothing. Your desire to go out and do something to change the world is given to you by God the moment you're born. We want people to go out there and live their fullest lives. So asking people to go out and either volunteer at a position, get educated, get engaged with your community, or go get a job, and we're going to help you do that. We already have 2 trials ongoing with technology solutions to allow us to pretty quickly adjudicate whether you've tried the work. If you have not had a job, we can try to connect you with the state employment offices. We can adjudicate whether you're trying to volunteer or get educated. Just go out and change the world. This is something everyone should be rooting for. I don't understand how you could possibly say that's a bad thing for America, for us not to want to get people to be wealthy, to go out there and change their own lives for the better.
It seems to be real concern about rural hospitals. Can you allay some of those fears, Doctor, and the effect? What is the fear, and how do you counter? How do you tell people it's going to be okay?
Well, the quality of the care you're getting in healthcare, especially, but the dignity you have is oftentimes driven, unfortunately, by the zip code you live in. So about 7% of the Medicaid dollars we spoke of go to rural healthcare. It's about $20 billion a year. The president and Congress have very wisely said we're going to put $10 billion more a year into this program for the next 5 years. So 50% increased spending in rural health care. And they've created a rural health transformation fund that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is going to administer.
Okay.
The money is going to be given with grants, which are being requested within the next month. By the end of this calendar year, we're going to put money into the rural healthcare system to make sure that it works better for everybody. Better manpower, right-sizing the system, and bringing IT into the program. We need technology.
I'm glad you know how TV works, because you wrapped just in time, Doctor. Yeah, we got to get out. Thank you.
And that's Squawk Pod for today. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern. Follow Squawk Pod wherever you get your podcasts for news-making interviews and all the latest headlines.
Is the next generation R2 chip the R2D2?
It's not an R2 chip. It's an
R2
R2 model.
Is the next generation model the R2D2?
It is not.
If you've been listening for a while, first of all, thank you. Second, share this podcast with a friend. Help others discover what we do here. Thanks, as always, for listening. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.